Thank you. I'm 73 years old. I was born and raised in Nova Scotia in a small fishing village. I will tell my story, and then I can explain how I came to somatics, because the whole story is important. When my father was going to the doctor for some problems with his back, he was being prepared for surgery, and this was about 2 weeks before Christmas. So he went to the doctor's office and he dropped dead in the doctor's office of an apparent heart attack. Up until that point, I mean, I had lived a fairly idyllic life, but with his death, my whole world was shaken. And then a year or so after his death, I had a gymnastics accident and I went down on my tailbone. And they were actually going to put me in a body cast, but realized that they felt that there was some kind of a compression fracture in my spine, like up higher. Okay. And so nothing was done. But I was okay after that. After about a year, there was, no problems. And then when I turned 22 was when I had 3 major events happen. I was sexually assaulted. A friend and I, going towards the summer, she and I one night decided to have this cheap bottle of wine. And I got a headache, so I decided to take some 222s. Well, you don't mix codeine and wine. I broke out in giant hives, and when I say giant, I mean giant. My hands swelled up, my face, my whole body. By the time I got to the hospital, I could barely move. And instead of sending me to emergency, they sent me up to dermatology, which was bizarre. I'm up in the waiting room. Everyone is looking at me like, what is this creature? And then all of a sudden, I just started, I was passing out. I was dying because my throat was going closed. And then, of course, the other thing, that summer I went back to Kingston to my sister's because her baby was being born. And that's where I met the man who was to become my husband. So I ended up going up flying with him because he was an electrician, but he was also a pilot. We all went out flying. So there were 4 of us. It was my the man who was to be my husband and me up front and my brother and my mother behind me. We had a really great flight. We were coming into land and somehow the gauges were reading wrong. We ran out of gas, out of fuel. So therefore, we had to glide in. We just got over this huge grove of trees, so we could all see the runway ahead, but we knew we wouldn't make it. But I mean, the field was supposedly all cleared and you could just, bump along. Mm-hmm. Well, unfortunately, we hit the only tree in that whole field. And it was on my side. It practically tore the wing off the airplane and the landing gear was crushed up. I was flung into the cockpit. I was wearing glasses. They were flung off. And I twisted, my whole body twisted. And I was cut here, under the jaw, and about 1.5 inches right under my eyebrow across here. And I was knocked out. So I guess you would call that a traumatic brain injury. And it actually was. Later in life, it caused me a lot of problems.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was. It truly was amazing.
You're a walking miracle.
Yeah, I guess I am. And I'm grateful. I'll tell you, I'm truly grateful. And then my husband actually got a flying job in Alberta, in Peace River. It was a bush plane, because they did a lot of flying in the bush up north. So in 1979, So my children then were 4 and 15 months. He went out first, and then we came out. September the 26th, my husband was killed in a mid-air collision. I had another incident. 2 years after my husband's death, I met this really incredible man. Unfortunately, he had some psychological problems. He was an adult child of an alcoholic, and he was seeing a psychiatrist, and he committed suicide. More things came to stop it, but it was my studies that brought so much for me, and they helped me a lot. No, I actually ended up, I had a car accident, and that just shook up my whole body. So that is that whole part of me there, of things that were buried. So my body just it was like everything was buried.
Right.
And yeah, I grieved, but not to the extent that it would have been best for me. I also suffered clinical depression. So I had a lot of problems. So there was major physio then, like physio and physio and physio. And I was taking some acupuncture in there too. I was sent from my regular physiotherapist to the craniosacral, and I was assessed by him, and he said, wow. He said, like, he just, went down. And when he got to the part where my lap belt would have been from the crash, he said, you have so much trauma in that area. Because I was having, by that point, I was using a cane. I was limping so badly. I want to see if you would go to the Somatics. And he said, I've referred other people, and he said, they've said nothing but good things about it. So he said, I'd like you to try it. So I said, fine, sure, anything. So I did. And that's how I came to your class, your introductory. Well, anyway, of course, when I came into the class, I was like leaning on the cane, and I actually had to sit down. I couldn't stand that long because I had to sit down. Like, it was just too much. So you did that towards the end, and then I remember getting up off my mat, holding onto the chair to get up, and I picked up the cane and I held it in front of me, and you just said, take a little walk. And so I just kind of looked ahead, and I started walking, and I walked this little amount and came back. And you were saying, oh my God, you're not using your cane. It was like one of those. And I thought, oh no, I'm not. And then of course I had to use it. It was like, but it was incredible. And I just knew then that this was the right thing for me. It was one of those, I just knew, my body knew that this was the right thing. I was just blown away by it. And then I just thought, I have to do this. Sheer guts, and deciding I had to stick with it. And it was very gradual going without the cane. And truly now, I cannot remember when I last used it. I seriously can't. A month and a half ago, 2 months, something like that. Anyway.
Amazing. So you took these classes, like your learning was exclusively online. You've done these classes just remotely. So, I mean, this just shows, the power of this practice, and that it can be learned from a distance.
I really have to say, you were so patient with us, and your knowledge, your way of presenting has made a huge difference. It's just like, you're phenomenal. There's no other word.
Oh.
how you've done it. Oh, love your sense of humor, and I have one too. So
What would you say is the biggest thing you've learned through these somatic
I learned
classes?
a lot about myself. I learned how much to not bury things, because of course in the classes there was oftentimes I was crying because all this stuff was coming out from so far in the past. And that was a big thing I learned, was to sense and feel my body more and not just take it for granted. That was the biggest thing I learned, was the fact that even at my age, I can still learn a lot.
Absolutely.
Like a lot more than, and the freeing.
Better and better.
Yeah, and I feel so much freer. And I guess the big thing is I want to be able to enjoy my grandchildren. I'm retired, and so therefore it's not things I have to do.
Yes.
I want to be out walking a lot more, because for me, walking in nature is so much nicer than walking on a sidewalk. I can remember when I first felt that my hips were moving, especially that right hip. That was pretty exciting. I actually had hips. It was like, this is amazing, because that right hip was not going to move. It just wasn't.
What has been the best experience that you've had so far?
I have found strength in myself that I didn't realize I had. I met a phenomenal teacher. It's also the camaraderie, the fun that we've had. It's the best experience would be coming home to myself, the real self.
That's a great way to put it.
That I'm finally uncovering. Yeah, that's the best way to put it, is coming home to myself, which I had lost a long time ago through a lot of trauma.
Yes.
And just had to do and had to get along, and didn't realize how much I was burying.
Yeah.
So it's, yes, coming home to me.
Yes.
Freer me.
Yes.
So your course here has given me such a gift, and I would say you were a gift as well.
Aw, thank you.
I am so grateful to have been recommended to the class. And he certainly knew what he was doing when he said, and by the way, I did, as I mentioned to you, I want to interject this, that I did go back for a checkup about a month, within the last month, to see how I was doing by the person who referred me.
Mm-hmm.
And he could not believe it. He said, number one, wow, you don't have your cane. Number two, he said, my pelvic area is almost fully back to where it should be. He said, my thorax, my ribs, he said, they are great. And he just looked at me, he just said, wow.
Wow.
That was his comment. He just said, like, that he said, I can't believe, he said, what you've done in this short a time, really.
Yeah.
You think about it, since February.
Yes.
And so I was like, whoa.
Yeah. And I mean, this is the amazing, incredible thing, is you did this from the inside out. And because we were in lockdown, you couldn't see anybody. All you did was somatic movement education during those weeks up into seeing your physiotherapist. So I just, that just shows how life-changing and how profound this education is. To be able to align. So it also, speaks to, you know, it's the fact that most of our pains, aches and pains, and chronic conditions are functional. Yeah, it's just amazing.
It is truly amazing. I mean,
amazing.
I've just like, you know, I want to go out and dance and jump around, but it goes to you. I mean, your knowledge and your ability to do what you're doing is really phenomenal. Don't forget, I've had a lot of different types of physio and modalities and stuff in the past. So I've gotten to know who's really good.
Aww.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Thank you so much for coming and
Thank
sharing
you.
your story with us. This was, I mean, it's been a pleasure to teach you. I have so much fun in the classes, and it's been a huge blessing to meet you.
Thank you.
To learn about your story, to get to know you. It's been just phenomenal and amazing.
The classes are
it
mostly fun.
To,
I mean, a little fun.
you know, it just speaks to the power of what somatic movement is all about. You know, it's so unique, and within us, we have this within us, and it's just, you know, tapping into that knowledge and tapping into that that ability to sense and feel and make change. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you.